When I got the call from Zach at 9:35 a.m., I heard the words that Karlie was gone, and my heart sunk to my stomach. Where is she? Who was she with? What time did she get home? You know, Zach, Karlie went missing from your guys' residence. His response was, well, at least you have a alibi. You're in another state. You guys are literally labeled suspects because you're the last ones to have seen her. My suspicions about Zach and Melissa didn't come up until after I arrived at their residence and heard the audio that they had recorded of Karlie. Karlie seemed really confused, concerned about her health. You can hear her asking, are you going to call 911? I heard her call out for Mom. I am just really scared. I did ask Zach and Melissa why they did not call 911, and her response was, she was just smoking pot, Lindsay.
Lindsay's making accusations. She wants answers, so she's mad because she wasn't a part of it either.
Melissa was looking at a 8-foot-long map on her wall with areas marked off where law enforcement had already searched. And when she looked at me, she said, Lindsay, they're going in the wrong direction. How does she know what way they should be going unless she knows where Karlie is? I've had suspicion that my daughter's in the middle of nowhere. Maybe they're just holding her out there. I think what triggered Melissa's emotional distress over all this is when I called her out on social media and I said, why don't you tell your audience about the 8-minute audio that you recorded of my daughter? It is very unsettling knowing that they refused to call for help when she asked them to. I believe there's evil in Zach and Melissa's house.
Friday night, I picked up Karlie from town. She was supposed to be at a football game. She had lied to me and told me that she was at the football game. And when she called me, she said she was sorry. I was with friends. I'm sorry. Can you please just come get me?
Where the subject begins her statement of what happened gives insight into the perception of the subject. When analyzing a statement, it is important to remember that this is not reality, but the subject's version of reality. It is also important to note that to Melissa, Karlie's disappearance started when Melissa picked her up from town. Melissa states Karlie had lied to her, which paints the victim in a negative light. Considering her missing status, is this necessary to the recounting of events? Melissa could have said, I picked her up at a party, but Melissa wants to drive home that Karlie is a liar. She uses had lied instead of lied, which would have been sufficient. Had lied elongates time, and this makes the time frame sensitive to Melissa.
So then Karlie went missing. She lied and said that she was going to a football game, but she had never really gone.
She said she was going to the football game, but they didn't hear drums in the background from the band or people cheering, so I knew she wasn't where she said she was.
You know, they portrayed Karlie as a horrible child. She was never a horrible child, and I say was. I speak of her in past tense because I pray that she's with God, in the presence of God. She was having problems in school. She was not a drug addict. They have completely portrayed her as being a party girl. She's not a party girl at all. However, Karlie did get scared easy.
Well, I got home just after work. Had a drink a couple beers. Melissa and Karlie showed up. Karlie was acting paranoid.
Okay, and you described her as disoriented. Right. Was she disoriented when you saw her?
Yes.
And describe disoriented from Dad's point of view.
Definitely not stoned on marijuana. I could tell that right away. She was paranoid. She was like felt scared of us, but then she would turn to, I love you. It'd be like, you're scaring me. And then all of a sudden it'd be, I love you guys. I mean, it was just...
So clearly irrational.
Very.
We finally got home, came into the house.
When I first saw Karlie, she was in the corner of the kitchen, paranoid. I actually heard her say, who is that? And Melissa saying, that's your dad, silly.
Scared.
I know, but what did you observe about her that seemed she was paranoid?
She just was acting very nervous and scared about, her phone, about us being around her at moments. And then at other moments, she'd change and just say she loves us and ask us if she was okay. She was just standing in the corner, afraid of not being safe.
Did she say that?
Yeah, she felt like she wasn't safe.
Oh, okay, well now I'm hearing something after many questions. She said she was afraid. What was she afraid of?
I really wish I knew.
So when she said, "Dad, I'm afraid," you didn't say, why are you afraid? What are you afraid of?
Yeah, I did. I asked her several times, and she said, I don't know.
Melissa, what do you recall? What was she saying? I'm trying to figure this out so I can figure out what may have happened to her. What was she afraid of? Because to me, the fact that she's telling you guys she's afraid and then she goes missing can't be separated. That's important, Melissa. What was she saying she was afraid of?
She kept saying, I don't know. I said, what are you afraid of? You're home. We're safe. And she said, excuse me. She said, I don't know. And I was like, well, we're here. You're home. You're safe. It's okay. And then she was just very up and down with being paranoid. And then the next minute she was like, fine. It was like a roller coaster with her.
At 3 a.m., I woke up and noticed that the lights were still on in Karlie's room. My wife was with her. Karlie was wide awake. I just figured it was the drugs. She checked the whole house, and she's like, she's not here.
So do you think they're building up the story of her freak out because that makes her look like she would have walked off more so than her dad killing her?
They may be building something up like that.
That's twice that Melissa denies her medical help.
Yeah.
If not more.
Yeah, if not more. And they said that Karlie was in the corner acting scared. And I'm thinking if Zach possibly played, took her and whacked her upside the head like he did with Kane, of course she's going to sit in the corner and be paranoid.
Well, he beat and choked Melissa pretty good.
Yeah. I heard he broke her shoulder with the gun.
Mono 1, shot on fire, minute 5. If you could respond to Highway 6, it's going to be south of White Mountain Estates Road. It's going to be a white Toyota Camry, 3 occupants. Mother has a possible broken shoulder. Copy that. South of White Mountain Estates Road on Highway 6. Apron. Ten four. 807-10-4. And do you have status on the children?
They are with the mother in the ambulance.
So I guess Melissa, see, this is where they slip up. They give themselves away. So she said she was home and got the call from Karlie. Well, which the fuck is it? Because first you were in the drive-thru at Taco Bell, and now you're at home, and your husband's just getting home, and you're telling your husband you're going to go pick up his daughter? Doesn't make any sense. So why wasn't he picking up his own daughter?
Right.
Oh, wait, that's right, because he was intoxicated. But who's to say she wasn't? And that's why they didn't drive her to the hospital, because there'd be alcohol in her breath.
We spent the night. When we got home, she was still paranoid, almost like extremely stoned. And we got home, and then I had her eat. She had a salad. I made her eat a power bar, and she was just very paranoid. And she wanted me to spend the night with her. So, her brothers were awake, and Zach was awake, and we hung out, and she ate.
When we got home, and there's still a we, but this is stated after she asserts, we spent the night. And she is speaking out of chronological order, which goes to show how difficult it is to lie. She has lost track of her story. Melissa is showing sensitivity to time with her use of the word when, and please consider she may not have taken Karlie directly home. The repetitive nature of Melissa's statements indicate getting home and going home is very sensitive to Melissa. She also shows a need to persuade. The need to persuade may be why we spent the night is placed in her narrative out of chronological order for added emphasis that we spent the night. And this is to double down on Melissa and Karlie being in the house together all night. Melissa states she was still paranoid. Her use of the word still speaks to time, but this also weakens her assertion that Karlie was paranoid. It shows a need to persuade her audience. Her language changes from high to stoned, as she states Karlie was almost like extremely stoned. The three qualifiers before stoned indicated extreme need to persuade. It also indicates that Karlie's behavior was likely not due to drug ingestion, and Melissa is not working from experiential memory. Now, Melissa starts her sentence with, she had a salad, and Karlie had a salad does not mean she ate a salad. And then she goes, I made her eat a power bar. Melissa then starts her next sentence trying to decide which pronoun to use, which indicates deception and that she's hiding information. And the subject begins to say something and then changes her mind. What's intriguing about her pronoun usage with this particular phrase, this specific phrase, is that in all verbal accounts that this statement analyst has heard, she does the very same thing with her pronouns, meaning every time she speaks of this moment, she is deceptively withholding information, yet her brain knows what actually happened and in a way hiccups and disrupts her speech. And she does not state what making someone eat a power bar looks like. Melissa doesn't refer to Zach as her father. Why is Karlie given possession of brothers? It is also unusual to place each entity or person, so to speak, separately. It would have made more sense to state her brothers and Zach were awake, or Zach and her brothers were awake. One should consider why Zach is an afterthought or an addendum to her statement of who was awake. Please consider that Melissa is deceptive when stating that Zach was awake. From information given on their Nancy Grace interview, Zach was drinking heavily that night. In other interviews, Zach has stated that he felt guilty for not being more coherent about what was going on. Most likely he was not awake. And then Melissa states, and we hung out and she ate. Melissa uses we without saying who hung out. She merely stated who was awake in her previous sentence. We is not defined and may be a point of deception, allowing her audience to believe that Zach was part of the we hung out. And please note that in statement analysis, when a subject references eating in the free editing process, there is a strong correlation with drug ingestion. The three references to the act of eating in Melissa's language should cause exploration of the possibility that drugs were given to Karlie by Melissa or taken by Melissa during this time period.
I had to go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, wash my face. She was by my side the whole time. She didn't want to leave my side. She was paranoid.
Melissa can say anything she wants about Karlie going missing, and in her open statement, she chose to talk about how she had to go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, wash my face. Out of the thousands of words and thoughts, she chose these. This is something we all do, so why is it flagged? It's not that this is unusual behavior. It's that Melissa chose to include this in her statement about her missing stepdaughter. This is unnecessary information, thus has increased significance. During the free editing process in a subject statement, there is a strong link between water and sexual abuse. There is a need to cleanse oneself to wash away the guilt. It is difficult to tell if Melissa's mentioning of washing her face is in regards to her own personal history of possible sexual abuse or sexual abuse of Karlie. This would be a point that if Melissa were questioned would need to be explored. Why did Melissa only speak of washing her face and not her hands? especially considering she had to go to the bathroom. One needs to also consider that if Karlie sustained a head injury, Melissa may be leaking this information out by talking about washing her face. Melissa states she didn't want to leave my side, indicating sensitivity, and withheld information about what happened to Karlie while she was by Melissa's side. Her brain is not moving forward and is stuck back at the time Karlie was by my side. Also note, Melissa states what Karlie didn't want, with the negation making what Karlie wanted important to Melissa. She states this, yet does not give Karlie a voice. She's speaking for her. Melissa does not tell her audience how Karlie communicated what she didn't want to her. I also want to go back and touch on brushing teeth and what that potentially means in an open statement. So not only she's mentioning water with washing and going to the bathroom, but she's also specifically mentioned brushing her teeth. And acts of personal hygiene, such as brushing teeth, is rarely mentioned in an open statement. In fact, less than 10% of statements contain information about the subject brushing their teeth. And, everybody does this, or at least hopefully. So the question needs to be, why did she feel the need to include this in her statement? Why was this important information for her to convey to her audience? But when someone mentions the act of brushing their teeth, that typically indicates they are hiding information of a personal nature, specifically domestic violence. And the psychology behind this principle is pretty simple. When someone is in a domestically violent relationship, the abused person lives with the threat of abuse daily. It's not that they're abused daily, although they may be, but it's the mere threat of it that typically controls the victim. The threat of abuse is all that's needed for the abusive partner to take control. When the abused partner goes into the bathroom and locks the door to brush her teeth, she has a moment of peace and safety, free from the threat of harm. Was Melissa taking refuge in the bathroom with Karlie from someone else in the household? It's not a far stretch to assume that Melissa's safe place in the household is her bathroom, which is evidenced by her videotaping most of her Facebook lives in her bathroom.
I was just hoping that she would just go to bed, sleep it off, and that the next day there was still something wrong, that we could take her to the doctor or whatever needed to be done.
We ended up back in the living room with her brothers for a little bit, watched a movie, and she was just still kind of paranoid. And then we went back to bed, and I spent the whole night with her. I mean, I was awake, and then I doze off, and she's just there. She was just hanging out. She was awake. She wanted to paint my toenails. She wanted to color. She wanted to do a whole lot of stuff. And so I was up, and then I would doze off, and I was up, and I would doze off, and she was there the whole time.
And at one point, did she go to sleep ever, or was she awake the whole night?
I tried to get her to sleep, and she laid next to me, and we held hands and looked at each other, and I just watched her, and her eyelids were shut, but it was her eyes were still moving underneath her eyelids. She couldn't try to rest. And then that's when I thought that maybe it is methamphetamines mixed with marijuana, because methamphetamines make you stay up.
So you think that she probably had some kind of speed, that she was racing?
Something that was keeping her up, for sure.
Yeah.
I went in to check on them to make sure they were okay. They were in the bedroom. Melissa was comforting her, hanging out with her. And at that point, I went to bed.
Around 5:45, Karlie was still sitting next to me, just doodling, writing on a piece of paper. She had more calmed down at that point.
What if she fell and hit her head? So I woke up, it was 7:18, and I said, because I was in her bed, and her door was open all night, so I couldn't have heard that. And I was in her bed, and she was just gone.
We follow the what ifs in Melissa's statement. What if she's out in the desert? And here is the second what if. She fell and hit her head. According to Melissa's statement, Karlie may be out in the desert. She has indicated she didn't take anything with her, including a water bottle. Of all the concerns of a missing child in the desert, she is wondering about Karlie falling and hitting her head. Her concern for this one possibility seems misplaced and odd. Statement analysis principle is that extra information offers additional meaning. This idea of Karlie falling and hitting her head is not a random statement. as there's always meaning in a subject's words. Melissa introduced new words and a new idea along with those words. For that reason, this may be an embedded confession, and that. Melissa self-censors, stopping her thought as she gets too close to treacherous territory. Here, Melissa loses track of her story. She woke up and she said, what? What did Melissa say when she woke up? She reports again that I was in her bed, and then she reports new information. And her door was open all night, so I couldn't have heard that. Melissa expects to be asked, how could Karlie have left and you not heard anything? Melissa reports what she didn't hear, Karlie leaving. Why didn't she hear Karlie leave? Because her door was open. To give extra detail to convince her audience this is true, she adds all night. So Melissa not only expected to be accused of being awake during what happened to Karlie, she expected questions about how Karlie left without anyone knowing. This indicates that Melissa is aware when and how Karlie left the house. It is expected that the subject reports what happened. It is unexpected for a subject to report what didn't happen, with reporting what they don't think, don't see, don't know, don't hear, etc. We don't mark time by what we do not experience. Time is marked by what happens, and that's what forms memory. According to Melissa, Karlie was paranoid in the hours preceding her disappearance. One wonders how someone who is so paranoid and disoriented could leave so quietly so as to not awaken anyone in the house. And please note that the opening and closing of a door is important in statement analysis, and when this enters a statement, it is closely linked with sexual abuse of a child. In subjects, it is often found that opening a door by the abusive parent and closing the door often enters into the language of the abused child. For the abused child, the opening of the door represents the start of the sexual abuse, which is too painful often to talk about, so the child will often say he or she remembers the door closing, as it is often associated with relief, since the abuser has now left and the abuse is over. In statement analysis, the opening and closing of doors, the turning on and off of lights, and introduction of water or washing are 3 indicators of sexual abuse or activity, so that when any of the 3 enter a statement, they are automatically flagged by the analyst. Melissa's statement has 2 of the 3 indicators of sexual abuse, recalling her statement about washing her face and brushing her teeth. And as a side note, it is interesting to note that in other accounts of what happened the morning of Karlie's disappearance, Melissa includes doors in her narrative. In this statement, her door was open all night, and in her Dateline NBC statement published October 22, 2018, she stated she went through her usual routine of opening the kids' doors and saying good morning to them. In their Dr. Phil interview that aired March 25, 2019, the front door was ajar. If anyone still thinks she was in her bed all night, they no longer do. This extreme need to convince and persuade indicates she wasn't in her bed, and she was just gone. Just gone. Melissa is comparing gone to a greater conclusion about Karlie. What worse outcome was she comparing gone to when her brain made the split-second decision to insert the word just? Gone indicates finality. The expected would be to hear missing. Here again you see that she avoids using the word missing. Missing means that she doesn't know where she is. It's much easier to say she was just gone. And this is an example of deception, while technically being truthful. When Melissa says, I was in her bed, she is not saying I was asleep in her bed or I slept in her bed, as this would be an outright lie. Melissa's primary concern is alibi building. When I woke up, she was gone is a commonly used alibi for parents who murder their children.
I'm in her room right now. I just recently did this about 2 weeks ago because I wanted to let the light back in. I was tired of cutting her off and leaving her in the dark. Here's a picture of us when I was hunting. I used to call her my good luck charm when we go hunting all the time. I'd have to force her sometimes to go, but I'd get her to go, and you know what? Like more times out of not, I'd get a deer, and it was fun, you know. And
Melissa, do you want to take a shower? Think that'll make you feel better? No. You're gonna kill me. Karlie, listen to what you just said to me. What? You said you're going to kill me. Don't kill me. Why would I kill you? That's preposterous. That's ridiculous. I'm eating the devil's lettuce. You're eating lettuce that I just freshly chopped that I bought from the grocery store. I don't know why. I'm just Why you would think it's the devil's lettuce? Because I'm just thinking all these demonic stuff and I can't help it. You're okay. You wouldn't call them? Why would you look at me like that? Well, you just said you wouldn't. Would you call them? 911? If for what reason? If there was an emergency? If there was an emergency, yes, I would always call 911. Okay. Yeah. Why are you scaring me? I don't know. Just don't look at my face. I have to look at you. No, you don't. Is it because I'm ugly? No, you're not. You're beautiful. You're not ugly. I'm sorry. I love you. I love you too. It's gonna be okay.